The movie opens in Philadelphia, where we meet a father named Cooper Adams and his daughter Riley. At the moment, they are on their way to a pop music performance featuring a vocalist named Lady Raven. Riley is a tremendous fan of the singer, so her father is treating her to the concert as a reward for her excellent grades. After arriving, the two wait in line with the crowd to enter the stadium. Cooper realizes there are a few officers outside before entering the building. Riley then joins a dance group and has a wonderful time while Cooper records her. Afterward, she speaks up about the troubles she's encountering at school because of a bully girl named Jody. But Cooper encourages her not to worry about it now and simply enjoy the music. Next, the two make their way to their stadium seats. Cooper again finds multiple police officers stationed at every intersection, which makes him nervous. The show suddenly begins, and the crowd bursts in screaming when Lady Raven emerges. After a few songs, Cooper asks his daughter to stay in her seat and excuses himself to use the restroom. Once there, he takes out his phone, enters a passcode, and checks on a young man through a CCTV camera. The man's hands are tied, and he's trapped in a basement, implying that he's being kept hostage. Cooper then starts to wash his hands, but then he observes an old woman in the restroom, but she departs moments later. While returning to the concert, he finds Jody's mother, who appears especially chatty. Cooper shares his disapproval with Jody's actions toward Riley, and the mother apologizes and offers to speak with her daughter. Meanwhile, we observe a significant number of SWAT teams and FBI agents appear outside the stadium. As the father has returned to his seat, he notices many officers bring one individual from the crowd outside. During the musical break, Cooper and Riley attempt to purchase a merchandise t-shirt, but there's only one remaining. Another girl claims that she arrived earlier, so Cooper convinces Riley to give up the t-shirt. The attendant, Jamie, observes that they appear to be a welcoming family, so he announces that additional merchandise has come in the storage area and invites them to meet him again in 10 minutes. Cooper then introduces himself and chats with Jamie discreetly, wondering why there are cops and cameras on every corner. The attendant secretly explains that the authorities have got information that the legendary serial killer known as the Butcher is likely to be here today. The entire performance is essentially a trap for him, and the cops have barred all exits. The only way out is through the backstage area, where no one is permitted to go. Jamie encourages Cooper not to tell anyone about this. Later on, Cooper becomes extremely restless and starts glancing around. He quickly spots an intoxicated woman standing in front of a staircase and pushes her down, distracting the attention of the guards. Cooper then informs Riley that he wants to go outside, which puzzles her. But when he sees some FBI agents at the door, he cancels his plan. With a sense of apprehension, Cooper returns to the event with his daughter. Later in the show, Lady Raven invites another artist to join her for a duet performance. To everyone's surprise, the artist makes a dramatic debut from beneath the floor. This intrigues Cooper, and he recommends to Riley that they should climb down and see what's underneath, but she's weirded out by the idea and refuses. He then states that he will go acquire the product t-shirt for her. Shortly after, Cooper meets with Jamie, who leads him to the storage room. They engage in casual chat, during which Cooper confesses that he's a firefighter. He then covertly grabs Jamie's work key card while helping the guy hoist a box. Cooper also wonders if they've caught the Butcher, which Jamie denies. He reveals that every employee is aware of the trap and has a secret code to use if they get stopped by police. When Cooper asks what the code is, Jamie discloses that it is Hamilton. After obtaining the t-shirt, Cooper travels around looking for an escape route. He uses the access card and soon comes into a break room where an FBI agent is training the squad on how to find the Butcher. Cooper enters the room, claiming to be an employee, and grabs a coffee. As he exits, he snatches one of the officer's walkie-talkies. Outside, he runs into Jody's mother again, who wants to fix their daughter's relationship. Cooper tries to dismiss her, but she continues and doesn't stop talking. Suddenly, they hear a commotion and realize that someone has been arrested. Cooper notices an old woman named Dr. Josephine Grant, who turns out to be the FBI's top profiler. Upon returning to the performance, Cooper plugs in his earphones and listens to the walkie-talkie. He hears Josephine conversing, explaining that the person caught earlier is not the butcher, but another fugitive. She claims that the butcher is intelligent and doesn't panic easily. The unit commander then goes over the suspect profile, noting that the offender is a middle-aged male with an animal tattoo on his wrist. Cooper looks at his hand and discovers the lamb tattoo, which scares him. He hastily takes a neighboring band and uses it to cover his wrist. Next, he informs his daughter that he left his credit card at the t-shirt booth and has returned to recover it. Later, he's going to activate the fire alarm, but overhears Josephine saying that the butcher will most likely exploit panic to his advantage, such as setting the fire alarm or causing an explosion. In such cases, only women and children can leave, she says. Realizing that the woman is one step ahead of him, Cooper chooses to abort this strategy. Afterward, he slips into the kitchen area and dumps 2 glass oil bottles into a hot fryer. This creates an explosion, and one of the employees is severely injured in the process. Taking advantage of the confusion, Cooper steals an apron and heads to the rooftop, preparing to flee. However, his preparations are disrupted when he's approached by 2 officers there. Cooper claims to be a kitchen worker and says he came to the rooftop to clear his head after the explosion event. The officers ask him about the code, and he confidently responds with Hamilton. This convinces them that he's just an ordinary man, so they let him go. When Cooper returns downstairs, he observes the injured employee being carried in an ambulance. He also glimpses the old woman he saw earlier in the washroom, but she soon flees. Cooper then comes across Riley, who has been hunting for him. She queries his peculiar conduct, and he says that he ran across Jody's mother again. Riley then begs him to stay with her for the remainder of the show, to which he complies. Later at the concert, Cooper learns from his daughter that Lady Raven is going to choose someone to perform with her on her next song. This person also will be authorized to go backstage, which sparks an idea in Cooper. He knows that if he can get Riley picked, they'll be able to leave the event without being confronted by the cops. As a result, Cooper approaches Raven's manager, who is also her uncle. He introduces himself and starts babbling about how Lady Raven has been an inspiration to young girls. He then discusses his daughter, Riley, claiming that she's a huge admirer of Raven and is recuperating from leukemia. Cooper also alleges that his daughter doesn't want to talk about it and tries to hide her troubles. Later, we discover that his sob story actually works, as the touched manager chooses Riley to perform on stage beside Lady Raven. Following this, the father and daughter are led backstage by the management, and Cooper observes there are a lot of officers guarding. The officers are initially reluctant to let them in, but the manager relays Riley's tale about her leukemia and convinces them. Up next, the 2 wait behind the stage. Riley soon goes on stage and enthusiastically starts performing alongside her idol, Lady Raven. This infuriates the bully Jody and her parents so much that they start arguing with each other in the middle of the music. After the concert concludes, Cooper and Riley hurry toward the backstage exit, but he's upset to see that cops are there as well. He listens to the walkie-talkie, and Josephine tells her crew to scrutinize each individual exiting the arena. Furthermore, he realizes that Lady Raven is aware of the issue, and it was her plan to capture the killer today. Shortly after, she arrives to tell Riley farewell, and Cooper resolves to take decisive action. He asks for a private conversation with her, indicating that he wants to discuss his daughter's condition. The singer doesn't think too much about it and agrees. The 2 then enter the makeup room, and it is at this time that Cooper informs Lady Raven that he is, in fact, the butcher. He firmly claims that the trap she and the authorities have created for him won't discourage him from leaving. Cooper also gives her footage of the man he has held hostage, disclosing that his name is Spencer and he's only 22 years old. Cooper says that he can easily leak carbon monoxide into the room using his phone, which would kill Spencer quickly. He wants Lady Raven's help in securely fleeing the venue in her limousine or threatens to kill Spencer. Lady Raven is scared, yet she cannot take the thought of an innocent man dying upon hearing this. She therefore has no choice but to lead the father and daughter out without being stopped by the cops, while the other persons are being searched at the entry. Later, they all get in her limo, and Lady Raven abruptly asks Riley if she may come to her house. The small girl joyfully accepts, although Cooper feels Lady Raven has some ulterior purposes. However, he cannot resist his daughter, who also likes the artist. Upon their arrival, Lady Raven meets the rest of the family, including Cooper's wife, Rachel, and their young kid. They appear to be a normal family, and the singer concludes they must be unaware of Cooper's awful crimes. Rachel then invites her inside, and Lady Raven agrees without hesitation. However, Cooper tells her privately that if she says or does anything clever, Spencer will die. Afterward, Lady Raven tells the family about the butcher who was meant to be at the event. She alleges that the cops uncovered a part of a ticket to her concert at one of the killer's hideouts. Moreover, she indicates that the killer had a troubled relationship with his mother, who was the first to recognize his psychopath tendencies. Hearing this, Cooper becomes irritated and tells her that she doesn't have to stay here to be polite and that he can walk her out. However, Lady Raven suddenly begs if she can play a song on their piano. The family happily agrees, which just irritates Cooper further. After playing a wonderful song, Lady Raven snatches Cooper's phone to take a selfie with Riley. She then hurriedly gets up and rushes into the family restroom with the phone. This infuriates Cooper, and he begins hammering on the door, asking for his phone back. During this point, the singer speaks with Spencer via CCTV camera. She asks him for any hints about his whereabouts, and Spencer replies that the house has a blue door and a broken lion statue on a nearby street. Following this, Lady Raven goes live on her social media channel to alert her fans of Spencer's captivity. She asks whether anyone in the Philadelphia or New Jersey area has spotted a broken lion statue and a house with a blue door. To her amazement, one of her fans recognized the description and offered to help. The singer then encourages her driver to phone the police. Meanwhile, Cooper is continuously beating on the door, with Rachel pleading with him to stop. Lady Raven then loudly reminds Rachel that her husband is the butcher, and everything suddenly becomes silent. And then this happens. Cooper manages to break inside the washroom and get back his phone. When he views the CCTV footage, though, he is surprised to see that Spencer is gone. Lady Raven tries to probe Cooper about his relatives, but he keeps silent. He walks her to his wife's car in the garage, preparing to drive off somewhere else. During this time, Lady Raven attempts to persuade him by speaking like his mother and asking him to be a respectable son. This strategy works briefly, and Cooper becomes upset, admitting how his mother used to punish him a lot. Lady Raven emphasizes that he doesn't need to continue down this path, and they can help him. However, Cooper admits that this will be his last murder, and afterward, he wants to unalive himself as well. Just as Cooper is about to drive away, he spots his family standing outside the garage. The small child can't stop crying and asks her father what's going on. Upon hearing this, Cooper becomes emotional as he realizes he has finally allowed his two lives to intersect. Lady Raven then quietly departs the vehicle and joins the family, while Cooper closes the garage door and locks himself inside. Meanwhile, police, FBI agents, and many SWAT officers arrive and surround the residence. The family is transported to safety while Lady Raven waits inside her limo. Unfortunately, the cops quickly learn that a neighbor spotted Cooper exiting their front door. It turns out that the mastermind had dug an escape tunnel from his kitchen to the neighbor's yard. But seconds later, we hear that Cooper has disguised himself using a SWAT suit and driving the limousine off with Lady Raven. He shackles the singer and then drives away. He's taking her to one of his abandoned homes. But after a period of traveling, they become stopped in severe traffic. Lady Raven seizes the chance and manages to open the automobile window. She calls for aid from passers-by. Up next, she manages to wriggle out of the handcuffs and cautiously exits the truck. As a result, the cops soon come and shoot at the limousine's tires to prevent Cooper from fleeing. However, when they investigate inside, they are amazed to learn that the killer has fled once again. We then see Cooper walking away from the scene in a hoodie he discovered in the truck. In the following scene, Lady Raven greets and praises the fan who recognized Spencer's whereabouts and alerted the police. She then approaches and comforts Spencer, who is still shocked by what transpired. Sometime later, we find that Rachel is back at the house while her children are living with her sister. Josephine reminds her that it is unsafe for her to be here, but Rachel claims that she doesn't want to be around others. The FBI agent then explains that she has stationed 2 agents outside the residence in case Cooper returns. Afterward, Rachel examines the video footage of Spencer's kidnapping before heading to the kitchen to cook dinner. But to her dismay, she is soon faced by her husband, who is sitting at the kitchen table. Cooper asks her how the cops obtained a lead on him, and she wonders whether Rachel was involved. Although she denies it, Cooper can tell she is lying. In the end, Rachel admits her role. She admits that she first suspected Cooper of cheating on her because he would come home late. However, something didn't set right with her, especially because she often smelled cleaning solvent on his clothes. So one day, Rachel decided to follow Cooper to one of the abandoned houses. After he left, she broke in and discovered only a chair and a table. Despite the absence of tangible evidence, she followed her intuition and set him up by leaving a torn receipt for the concert ticket and then calling the police. Rachel emotionally explains that she had thought the police inquiry would prove her suspicions incorrect. Hearing this, an irate Cooper allegedly is about to kill her, but she requests they finish the pie she baked for Riley. The man surprisingly agrees and sits down to eat with her. As they dine, Cooper vents his fury with Rachel, saying that because of her, he will never see his children again. He reveals that when he kills her, he will also kill himself. But then, seconds later, Cooper appears disoriented, so Rachel discloses that she spiked his slice of pie with drugs from his tool bag. Cooper acknowledges he just used them to pacify the victims. In his confused state, Cooper rises up and sees the apparition of the same old woman he had been monitoring during the concert. It turns out she was his mother, and she was terrible to him when he was younger. As a result, anytime he felt the need to kill, he got fleeting flashbacks of his past. The woman encourages him to halt his aggressive conduct and assures him that he's not a monster. She urges him to come to her, explaining that she has finally accepted him for who he is. Upon hearing this, Cooper becomes upset and walks towards his mother figure. However, as soon as he reaches the living room, he is subdued by a police officer with a taser. It turns out that the chat he imagined he was having with his mother was actually with Josephine. Cooper is then detained and escorted outside to a heavily guarded car. On his way, he discovers Riley's fallen bicycle on the trail and briefly stops to set it upright. At this moment, the kids also arrive, and Riley embraces her father emotionally as a final goodbye. Cooper then joins the police van without protest and drives away from there. In the closing moment, the camera pans to the bicycle that he had just positioned upright, but one of its spokes is missing, and it turns out to be hidden within Cooper's sleeve. He takes it out surreptitiously and uses it to free his shackles. We then watch him release himself and laugh maniacally, hinting that he's preparing to flee once more.